world has opened up to me. And like I said, I'm living a far, far bigger life and finding so much joy in the smaller things. Just a life change, just taking back control, just seeing what else you could do if your life wasn't taken up with this focus for drinking. And that's what I wanted to try. I wanted to see what it would be like. The freedom from that blew my mind.
Hello, it's Zoe, coach, creator, and mischief maker behind the Mischief Movement podcast, your weekly inspo for people looking for more hell yeah in their life. I'm on a mission to help you rediscover that rebellious streak, find your confident inner badass, and stop holding yourself back from the amazing life you've been dreaming of. Join me each week as I discuss mindset, share stories, or develop strategies, sometimes alone, but most often through interviewing adventurous, unconventional guests who are shaking up the status quo, living life on their terms, and impacting the world by doing things differently. All this so I can help you, my amazing renegade listener, to experience the freedom, adventure, and meaningful connections I know you've been craving. Not long ago, I woke up one day and thought this isn't the life I'd imagined for myself. I felt disconnected and unfulfilled, but I set my intention firmly on adding more fun, getting out of my comfort zone, and becoming curious about what truly lit me up. And then magical things started to happen, including this podcast. As that famous quote goes, she remembered who she was and the game changed. I've always loved the word mischief because it's cheeky, playful, and a little bit rebellious. And that's exactly what I hope this podcast brings to the table. An audio ass kick out of midlife mediocrity towards fun and positive impact via playful disruption. Let's rewrite the rules, throw two fingers up to society, and do more of the things we love. So I'm here to empower you to boldly rebel against the ordinary and support you as you design a life you don't want to escape from. If you feel called to activate your own adventure and make unconventional your new normal, I dare you to jump in with me. Ready? Let's go. I love asking my guests, what is your mischief? Because you just never know where the conversation is going to go. And that's exactly what happened when I spoke to Suzanne Freer at the end of last year, expecting to chat about how she changed up her life from corporate banking to freelance copywriting via social media management and motherhood. But this conversation took a different turn when she revealed the one decision that has allowed her to live a bigger life and given her the confidence in herself to design a lifestyle on her terms. Curious, I bet? All right. She quit alcohol completely. So if you've ever thought about going sober and wondered whether you could or would go through with it, listen up, because this one episode might just get you thinking differently. I'll also pop some useful links in the show notes if you'd like support with making a similar change in your own life. Right, let's dive straight in. So this week I am joined by Suzanne. I'd love to ask you, Suzanne, what is your mischief?
So we've just been thinking about this properly, and my mischief is going against one of the biggest societal norms I know of, and I've stopped drinking a couple of years ago, and it's absolutely changed my life and the way I live my life, the way I see what's going on around me, and the joy I'm finding. So my mischief is living a bigger life through sobriety.
Amazing. I love the way you say that as well, living a bigger life. So what was behind the decision to give up alcohol?
So I drunk from a young age, as many people do. It's so normal in society. I tried drinking, around 13, 14, and it was fun to get as drunk as possible. And that sort of theme never stopped. Like the more drunk you could get, or the more tolerance you had for alcohol, it was a mark of your who you were in life, how great you were, how much fun you were. It was, what you were like when you were drinking. And this carried on up to university life. Drinking is such a part of the culture. So it just became very much an everyday thing for me, especially during COVID, which was a strange time for everybody. But all that, we had the first few months, we had fantastic weather. It was like one long summer holiday. You couldn't work. kids couldn't go to school. We had the paddling pool out, and it was gin o'clock by, early afternoon.
Yeah.
So it wasn't ever that I was failing to work, or I was failing to function. I was a highly functioning person with a bad relationship with alcohol, and I'd been thinking about it for a couple of years. I'd noticed the odd person around me on social media just saying that they'd quit alcohol, and so I think, oh, that's amazing, but how do they do it, and what do they do? And I can't give up drinking yet because I've got my birthday coming up, or I've got someone's wedding coming up, or it's Christmas. How do you do those things without a drink? So it had been definitely something I was thinking about. And it just sort of came to a head. It wasn't even a terrible night, a terrible blackout. I didn't fall and hurt myself or totally embarrass myself. None of these things. I just drank too much as usual on my own. And I just woke up the next day and thought, this is just, why are you doing this? My husband had gone to bed at a normal time the night before. I stayed up and I carried on drinking on my own for no reason whatsoever. Literally, it wasn't that I wanted to be drunk. It wasn't that I enjoyed the flavour. It was just what I was doing. And, I'm here, I'm watching something. It's a Saturday night, therefore I'm drinking. And it was that mindlessness that I wanted to stop. I wanted to just not even take control, but just be aware, just have a say in what I was doing, rather than it being, like I say, a mindless habit that I was on autopilot doing. I wasn't making a conscious decision. And I did say from the start, I've quit alcohol for good. I didn't say I'm going to take a break. I didn't say this is Stoptober or Sober January, any of those things, because for me, I couldn't put a target on it, because then I know that I'd say to myself, oh, well, if I'm only doing it for a month, I'll be drinking again by then. So what's the point? I might as well drink now.
Yeah.
And there would always be an excuse, but by telling myself it was it, that was it, no more. And I got myself one of those little apps that counts the days for you. And I downloaded Audible and got as many podcasts and, sober lit books and stuff, quit lit stuff, and just got that support straight away.
Did it help?
Oh, absolutely. One of the first books I listened to, which is a bit of a hit and miss. I've spoken to a couple of people about it, but Sober Girls Society.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, really resonated with me. The way it was read to me on the audiobook and things, it made sense. She was an average girl who just had got into this culture of drinking way too much. And she wasn't making any big statement about herself by giving up drinking. She was just, this is my life choice. And she sort of gave hints and tips on how to sort of navigate it, because people don't understand. People assume that you just, you must be on antibiotics, or you're pregnant, or you're feeling unwell, or you're driving.
Health kick. Yeah.
Health kick, exactly. It's a short-term thing. And I quit in the beginning of October. And I remember seeing someone towards the beginning of November, and I said, I haven't drunk I've quit drinking. And they were like, oh, how long? I said, 3 weeks. And they just laughed. They said, oh, yeah, well, I'll see you at Christmas. I'll buy you a drink at Christmas. And that sort of, it's just alien to so many people. And that's the people I hang around with. My friends, I was just like them. So I totally understood it and didn't judge him for it, but I found it quite surprising. There's just the lack of support. So yeah, absolutely. Quit Lit was fundamental to me, to just knowing that there's other people out there that, no big thing, no huge rehab story like you see on the news, or, in big autobiographies, and losing your livelihood, your family's things, terrible, terrible things. Just a life change, just taking back control, just seeing what else you could do if your life wasn't taken up with this focus for drinking. And that's what I wanted to try. I wanted to see what it would be like.
Yeah.
And I have to, like, it sounds so cliche, doesn't it, when people say, I never looked back, but I swear to God, from that first week, whilst there are definitely times where I thought I missed drinking, I missed that habit of it, I missed that looseness, that frivolity, the loudness in my laugh, the confidence I might have had before, which wasn't really me. It was me with alcohol. It wasn't truly me. So, but there were definitely times like, well, I would normally have a drink, but there's so many substitutes now on the market that I could pretend to have a drink. And so psychologically, I was still doing what I'd always done, but I'd just waking up with a clear head every day, not worrying what I'd said the night before, not thinking, oh God, I drank too much, or I don't know, it's just something silly, like I made a mess, or I ate too much when I was drinking, or, I dropped something on the floor. Really small things, but just that, why did I do it again? Why did I do it again? And the freedom from that blew my mind.
I love that. Now you're talking my language.
It's just unbelievable. Just, yeah, totally. I changed the way I looked at everything I did. Finding new ways to have that buzz, to have that fun has been just fantastic. It's been very strange at times, because with every time I realize something, with every time I see something that brings me more joy, or something I didn't realize I enjoyed so much before, all those new revelations, I realize how much time I spent and wasted focusing on drinking, focusing on when the next drink was coming, or what I should try. And now it's just the tiniest little things that are bringing so much joy. And it is freedom. It's amazing. It's this whole new world has opened up to me. And like I said, I'm living a far, far bigger life and finding so much joy in the smaller things.
What are some of the things that you have actually sort of either discovered or rediscovered off the back of this? Because one of the things that really hit me was when you described this sense of being on autopilot, and describing drinking as more of a habit. So,
yeah,
I mean, in breaking that habit, what have you started to notice more of?
In breaking the habit, I've got more mind space for other things. So whilst I'd normally be thinking, okay, what time is it? When can I have a drink? Or what should I drink tonight? Or what would be too much? I've got space to think about, okay, do I want to go and sit with the kids and just hang out? And then what does that mean? And it's great. Like, do you know the game Uno?
Yeah.
Up until 2 years ago, I'd never played the game Uno. I didn't.
Where have you been?
Right. So I just didn't give it the time of day. And it's something simple like Uno, which like I'm screaming out loud when I'm doing really well at Uno. If I win, I'm all over the place. This joy of just the tiny things. And that's I found the time to take to just try different things that I've talked about or just put off as not important. Like I've always loved swimming, and I've got back to swimming in the past couple of years. It's the closest I'll get to meditating, I think, is when I'm concentrating on my breathing in the pool. But also I'd always wanted to try open water swimming and just never got round to it. Or, I don't know who else does it out there, but they're often early morning sessions. I wasn't an early morning person, surprise. Yeah. And now one of my favourite things to do in the better weather, I'm not quite a cold water swimmer just yet, but in the better weather, my friends and I were going, we're there for 7:30 in the morning, and it's the most glorious start to the day, and it's peaceful and it's calm, and we can have a little, we're not doing the front crawl and going as fast as possible. We're just serenely with our heads like swans across the top of the water, having a little chat, and we're just we feel privileged to be able to do it. And you're looking around and there's nature around you and there's other people doing the same thing. And it's just this privilege, this joy that I get to do it. And like I say, it's no big thing. It doesn't cost a shed ton of money. It's not something you have to build up to do. It's just this small little moment that I get to enjoy that I wouldn't have taken the time to before. I was lazy before. My world was smaller. I just did what I'd always done. So yeah, that's it. That's just finding those little pockets of joy and just relearning where I'm getting my dopamine from is a big thing. Like I said, just
that's nice. Yeah,
I found that card games is my go-to on a night with friends. If they're all drinking and they could be on the karaoke or whatever, and I'm like, does anybody want to play?
How do you navigate that though? I mean, one of my thoughts is, fair enough, I could say to myself, I don't want to drink. That's it now.
Yeah.
But then being in those social situations where everybody else is drinking, what's that like, and how do you get through that?
It's different. And at first I didn't put myself in those situations, but there were certain ones I couldn't avoid. There were certain people's birthdays, or we had Christmas coming up and different things. And some of them, as I say, there was a gentleman who came across me and was like, oh, I'll see you at Christmas and I'll buy you a drink then. You know, there was this lack of belief in what I might or might not achieve, but there was no attempt to understand it. Or there was one of the best reactions I've ever had was when I told someone I wasn't drinking because I'd quit, that she actually said to me, I don't know why you're trying to ruin it for everyone else.
What?
Like it had anything to do with her. But that's more a reflection on how she was feeling, like, oh, well, if Suzanne's not drinking, what's it say about me? But
yeah.
But on the whole, I'm really lucky. I have got some of the most amazing people in my life that I can be with when they get really drunk, and it's just no different. I mean, there can be certain times where you might not laugh for as long as they do, or want to get as loud as they do. But in general, we've got enough in common, and they don't judge me, and they don't expect me to have a drink, and they would never mention it. And they're constantly trying to find me really nice non-alcoholic drinks to have, in their gatherings. And I'm really lucky. I have got some of the most fantastic people who care about me enough that we work together in that odd situation. And they're generally where I do my mixing. But I guess if the situation arises where I am with people who just don't get it, you find that the people who don't get it want to talk about it. They really want to talk about it. And you do often get people saying, well, I don't really drink that much. I can take it or leave it. I'll have a drink tonight and then I won't have another one till next weekend. That it's all about their stories, and which, it's great. I'm really happy for you, but that's not me. That's not my experience. And, we're all different. I respect you. I'm not going to say to you, don't have a drink. It's none of my business whether you drink or not, but just, leave me to it. Don't lecture me on how I should probably, you could probably have one and you'd be fine. No. I don't even want one. I don't know whether I'd be all right. I don't know whether I'd spiral into this drunken mess, but I just don't even want one, which is really interesting now.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that's really interesting is when you talk about this disbelief from people towards you, what struck me is the fact that you actually have a lot of self-belief and a lot of strength of your own character to be able to say, that's it, no more, and stick to that.
It's so lovely to hear you say that, because it's something I've only just realized myself literally in the past 6 months. Even though I was doing it and I was living it, I didn't believe it. I didn't realize what I'd done and how strong I am. I am one strong badass bitch, and I am over the moon with myself. But it took a realization. I've lived my life saying, oh, I never stick at anything. I dropped out of education half a dozen times. Or I've said I'm going to write a book. I've never finished that book. I got this mentality that I'll never stick at anything. And all of a sudden it struck me. I was walking my dog and I had to voice note a friend and I said, oh my God, I am so effing strong. I gave up drinking. I gave up smoking and vaping. I just did it because I wanted to, and I stuck to it. And I am strong and I can do it. And that self-belief has grown. It didn't just appear overnight at all. It's something I've had to start to live along with and to realize. And it's a really weird thing, because again, I just wasn't that I was brought up not to believe in myself, but I just didn't have it before. I was just like, oh, well, I'll do what I do. Well, I'll work for the man and earn the money, and then we buy a house, then we save up and we buy a bigger house. Just do what everyone else does.
But it's so easy to slip into that, though.
It really is. And just that, like I said, again, the autopilot, the mindlessness of not really thinking about how happy am I? Am I doing what I really love? Does this bring me joy? Do I love and admire myself right now?
I'm excited to continue partnering with Plight Club, a brand whose mission is to change the attitude towards vulnerability and to encourage more conversation around it in order to increase real human connection. Connection is one of my core values, as you know, so to bring more people together and help you rebel against staying the same, Polite Club are offering a cheeky 10% discount when you use the code MISCHIEF at the checkout. 50% of the profits from this organic and rebellious brand are used to fund proactive suicide prevention in the form of coaching, support, and awareness raising. So get involved and become a vulnerable with us. For more info on the brand or to buy online, go to politeclub.co.uk or follow on Instagram at politeclubhq. P.S. If you are a small business doing things differently, an independent brand disrupting the status quo, or simply an unconventional, adventurous individual looking to create a positive impact, I'd love to hear from you about getting your story out there in the world and promoting you. DM me on Instagram at The Mischief Movement. Right, now on with the show.
Similarly with this self-belief, when I quit my job last year to go self-employed freelance, I would never have done that before. I would never have thought I could do it.
See, that's interesting, because now, has that come off the back of giving up drinking? Because what I was going to say to you was, so often it just takes one domino to start the others off in a cascade. Absolutely. And if you can prove to yourself that, and cultivate that kind of self-belief in one area of your life, the chances are it then starts off a chain of events across the other areas of your life. Yeah, no, I totally agree, because I never imagined when I gave up drinking that this is where I would end up. And whilst it's not the only reason that I made so many changes in my life and did more things, it's definitely been a catalyst, like you say, the domino effect, and just growing in confidence, getting to know myself. I have a fantastic therapist. I think we should all get one for free. But I've done so much work with her, just getting to know, rediscovering myself and finding out how strong I am, what reserves I've got, what creativity I've got that I'd put dampeners on before. And I'd been working for almost 20 years in financial policy. I'd got this fantastic job, I paid stupidly well, but it brought me zero joy. I mean, I knew I was good at it. I had fantastic friends there. I was lucky to have this brilliant job. It was, recession-proof for all intents and purposes, but it wasn't lighting me up. It didn't bring me any joy. I mentioned before, I've always wanted to write a book. I love writing. I love making up stories. I used to write really long letters to my friends when I was kids, like with just like reams and reams and reams of A4 paper, like decorated and bits put in, just like with stories and that's grown. Like now with my kids, I write stories. Well, I did do, they're grown out of it a little bit, but for their favorite toys and what they're doing and things. I needed that creativity, and I had never given it time before. I'd never taken that time to think about where does my joy from the smaller things come from, and part of that is writing just brings me joy in it. To find a way to do that and get paid for it, it blows my mind when I wake up in the morning. And I can't wait to come to my computer. I can't wait to do the work, which is something I never had before. I'm out walking the dog, and I love being out and having the fresh air, but I'm like, I should get back and do that. I'm going to tweak that a little bit and bring that story in, and I love it. And I'm nosy, so learning other people's stories is brilliant. Curious.
I like that. Yeah. Positive language.
So how was that then? How did the move come about from being in finance to then going out on your own?
So
and what is it exactly that you're doing now?
So I'm a copywriter. I'm a creative copywriter. So I work predominantly with small businesses. I write blogs, newsletters, website copy, and I craft case studies and sales pages. But my main drive for my clients is for them to make an authentic and real connection with their ideal audience, so that they can start building strong relationships that move into ongoing paying relationships. And that's my goal for them, is to really get to know them and their ideal audience and bring them together. And I love to do that. As I say, the curiosity, not the nosiness, really, really helps. But I'd been working for the European Central Bank over in Frankfurt. We'd lived in Germany for quite some time. We'd moved back when I was pregnant with my first child. And since that time, I'd been commuting back after maternity. And, and like I say, I really enjoyed my job. I had some fantastic friends there. I enjoyed what I did because I knew I was good at it, if that makes sense. And I felt accomplished is one thing.
Yeah.
So, there was job satisfaction in that way.
That's the dream that we're sold, though, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So but then when I was on my second maternity leave with my son, things started to shift in me a little bit. Like I started to think about, was this really what I wanted to do? I realised that when I was younger, much younger, and my mum had gone back to work, so she stayed at home with us until towards the end of my time in primary school. And I remember her going back to work, and she got a job as a secretary within an estate agent. And I just don't remember her being happy. I remember this feeling of her having to go to work for this massive chunk of time, and she'd have, I've got to go to work. And she moved from job to job. She maintained the secretarial type role, and then she did do some training and changed, and she became an accounting assistant. But in general, it's this office-based 9 to 5 working for someone else. And I remember thinking back then, I'm not going to do that. That is not for me. I'm going to own my own business. I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to employ other people, and I'm going to have the best, most brilliant, most fun business. And I don't know where that dream went. It just disappeared somewhere from being a kid. You go through education, and
it breaks your heart, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you're all the way through education, from your GCSEs, your A levels. You constantly say, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? What's your career? What's the path you're going to go on? How will you grow into that? And there's no room. There's no wiggle room. There was a chance to dream, really. We filled in this form on an old PC that sort of spewed out what our life would be. And I think, I don't know, I can't remember. I probably got working in like Debenhams or something, because I was good with talking to people, so I was good on the tills. But, there was no real, they didn't put anything like an architect or like copywriter or, web design or anything, these really creative things just weren't on the table. So you choose courses, and like I say, I dropped out of education a few times because it just that wasn't fulfilling any kind of passion. And before I knew it, I ended up going into a recruitment agency, and I got a job as a secretary. Moved my way up a little bit. Met my husband, now husband. He was already living in Germany at the time. I moved out there, started temping as a secretary, and moved my way up within the bank. And I just never thought about it, because it's like, well, you're earning the good money. You're living the life that everyone says you should live. Yeah. You're able to go on the holidays. You've got a lovely flat, etc., etc. I didn't really think about what I was doing to get that. And like I say, it wasn't until having Tom, my second child, and just sort of taking a moment. I suffered with postnatal depression with both my children, and it gave me that opportunity to really reflect on who I was and my life through the therapy.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that definitely came out of it. It's just like, you need something more creative. You need to find joy in a different way. So I did some retraining before I went back to work, just to see what I could do. I did some social media training. And whilst that definitely wasn't for me, what I did find was a new outlet for this creativity through the writing the copy for social media, and how that then developed into blogs and things. Yeah. And I expanded my network, and I spoke to people who were doing it. The people around me were all running their own business. I was surrounded by amazing women who were just doing it. Like, they weren't raking in millions. They weren't going on fancy holidays to the Maldives, and they definitely weren't working from the beach. They were working hard, but they were doing what they wanted to do on their own terms. And it inspired me so much that since then, it's what I've been sort of doing on the side. As I say, like, for about 5 or 6 years, I did the copywriting on the side. And then when it came to the end of, towards the end of last year, things started to change at the bank for many reasons, to do with Brexit, because that's the European Central Bank. You're supposed to be a member of the European Union to work there. Mm-hmm. They honoured the contracts. That wasn't the issue, but it did change the dynamics of how much time you could spend in and out of the country. after, with the new normal following COVID, etc., etc. And it just became the right time for me to leave that role. But the decision I made was not to find another similar job here that I would commute into every day, probably from where I am, whether in Birmingham or into London, and instead take this opportunity, look around me and try and listen to the universe a little bit and just, okay, let's give this a go.
I am interested to hear though, what was the time gap like? I mean, you said it was last year that you kind of made that decision. You were doing the copywriting stuff on the side.
Yeah.
And then last year, with all the stuff that was going on, rather than see this as the end, it was like, here's an opportunity.
That's exactly it. Yeah. I did feel like I'd been given an opportunity. And that's how I chose to look at it. Because initially, when I realised I was going to hand my notice in and leave the job in Germany, I did go straight onto LinkedIn, started to see what was available, went onto the different job websites that there are, and automatically just started clicking the links and filling in the forms and going down the route. But every time I did, if I got a response to say, okay, we'd like to invite you to apply, I didn't actually go through any interview processes. But when I did, I realised I wasn't feeling excited, or the nerves I was getting wasn't, like I say, excitement nerves, or, let's get this right. It was, oh God, I really don't want to. And so to listen to myself, it was a big thing to really take a note of how I was feeling, like your gut reaction, and listen to it. And again, being so not totally in tune with myself, because that's probably an exaggeration of where I am. I think I've still got a lot of learning to do, but I think knowing myself and learning to trust myself comes from the fact that I've found this self-confidence, this self-belief since I quit drinking.
Amazing.
And so, to take that punt on myself a year ago. And at the time I said, I'll give myself a year. And other people are like, no, you have to give yourself at least 3 years. It's businesses take a while. But already in the last year, I've had highs and lows, don't get me wrong. It's not been plain sailing, but I've loved it. Like the learning process, I'm meeting people, I'm learning new things. I'm being asked to speak within groups about what I do and about things within my world, like ChatGPT. People want to talk about it, especially as a copywriter. Will it take over?
Yeah.
But the fact that people are...
What can you tell me about that?
No, we should be good. We should be fine. Okay. But just my life has changed so much. And I'm feeling a great joy now within myself on a daily basis, from tiny stuff, from big stuff. But I wouldn't have got here if I'd not just taken that first step.
Yeah. And what a big first step it was. You don't mess about, do you? There's no half-ass in that.
Well, I try.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to hear, because I think that the kind of central theme to your story is the mindset piece. It's the self-belief and the self-confidence that came from, just as you just said, like you took a bet on yourself.
Yeah.
You cultivated that self-belief, and then it's like, well, if I can do that, what else can I do?
Yeah.
And you weren't shy to have a go and just kind of see what you could do then.
Exactly. I found it so exciting, and it was such a fresh change for me, because I think in the past I've been one that didn't want to stand out too much, didn't want to try the new things in case it went wrong. I was quite fearful.
How have you dealt with that then?
I guess it's literally just taking a day at a time. Don't do the what ifs. Don't try and project 3 or 4 months or even 3 or 4 weeks down the line. Do the next thing, see how that goes, and then do the next thing. And if you're still enjoying yourself and you've still got your head just above water, I think you're doing okay.
So what advice would you give to anybody else who feels like they're kind of, I don't know, living on autopilot, I guess? I just keep coming back to that sense of going through the motions. I had a little bit of that experience myself, not with work, but when I first became a mother, and every day just felt like this rinse and repeat. And, you know, the overwhelming feeling for me was like, I'm not growing here. I'm just kind of withering away. And I felt terrible. I felt terrible saying that out loud because, you know, you're a mother. It's amazing. Yeah. It's a fantastic time. But why do I feel like this?
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm sure there are other people, whether they're experiencing it through motherhood or whether it's because they're going to a job that they just really don't like and are just having to put up with.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people to kind of help them get through that or break out of that right now?
I think it's like you said, you know, you took that time and you were able to voice it, which I think is one of the bravest things you can do. When you said to yourself, I feel like this isn't for me. I feel like I've lost myself slightly. When you give yourself, and motherhood is one of the biggest things we do, where we give ourselves over 150% more, and we totally lose ourselves in it, and which is the way it should be to a certain extent, especially right at the beginning, because you have to learn so much. But also society tells us it's the greatest thing you'll ever do. You will feel natural in this role. You will just know what your baby needs and how to give your child that perfect soothing love that they require from you. And when that doesn't happen, we can feel so lost and such a failure, and we forget what brought us here in the first place. And quite often that comes from us being such an individual that we met someone else that thought we were pretty damn cool as well, and then together we've made another awesome human being. But we've lost that initial person we were, that had all that joy and ambition and wanted to change the world and do great things and bring a person into it and show them how wonderful life can be. Because you're mired down in, okay, what time will they wake up, and when do I feed them, and will they be happy, and what if they wake up sad, and what do I do if this happens, etc., etc. And it's so similar to where I was a couple of years ago with a job, where you just do it mindlessly. You give yourself over to it and don't take into account what else you could do. How could you, even if it's just a case of changing the role you're in, you don't even think about it. It's like, well, this is the role as it's written in my job description, and so that is how I'll carry on. And when there's, you know, we could make a stand, make a change, point out a different way of doing things. Or, you know, if you're in that position and you can do it, look at other options. Write down every single option you've got, even the stupid ones, you know, that you could move to the Maldives and never speak to anyone else again. That sounds amazing. But it just get all your options out there and look at them, and don't dismiss them all. And you'll dwindle them down, like drill down until you've got 2 or 3 that are viable, but most importantly are attractive, and that give you that little feeling like, I think that could be something for me. And then go from there. It doesn't have to be a one huge change. You don't have to do this, quit your job, then go and start whatever. You don't have to do that, but give yourself that excitement, feel it, and see where that can take you. So start making a plan, put some things in place where you give yourself those options, because life doesn't have to be where you are right now. Life can change. You can change it. You can do anything you damn well want to. You put your mind to it. And like me, you're a strong, badass bitch, and you can bloody well do it.
Absolutely. Suzanne, it's been amazing talking to you this evening.
Oh, I've had such a laugh. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Where can people find out more about you?
They can come and find me. I'm always hanging out on Instagram. That's the best place to find me. And that's just at Suzanne Freer _ at the end. If you need to know or would like to know some more about me, I have a website, and that's suzannefreer.co.uk. I've got some freebies on there that you can download, or if you'd like me to take a look at the copy on your website, I do offer that as a free service. But yeah, otherwise just reach out. Let me know what you're up to, and I'd love to help if I can. But
amazing.
Otherwise, thank you so much, Zoe.
You're so welcome. I will put all of those details in the show notes anyway, so people can get in touch with you. And all the best with the onward sober journey. I look forward to seeing
Oh, thank you very much.
What you get up to next year as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we come, world 2024.
So here are this week's takeaways. Number 1, Suzanne described her drinking as something she did on autopilot. You don't have to give up drinking or anything else, but you could learn a lot from really analysing your life and looking at what you do on autopilot. What things have simply become mindless habits that you were unaware of, but actually, now you think about them, could be your chance to take back some control and make some changes in your life. 2, getting support is a really big help in these situations. Books, audiobooks, podcasts, people who have accomplished the change that you want to make, and your own immediate network of friends can all have a huge impact on your success. 3, breaking habits can bring you a real sense of freedom and mental space. It's got the power to introduce new interest into your life and a new appreciation for what truly brings you joy, even the small, seemingly ordinary moments. 4, self-belief is the cornerstone to making change. When you can believe in yourself, you give yourself or take back the power to choose a life that truly lights you up. 5, when was the last time you asked yourself, how happy am I? Am I doing the things that bring me joy? If not, what needs to change? Reconnecting with the things that brought us joy as kids can be a great place to start. 6, sometimes we can feel so accomplished in our careers that our fear of leaving paralyzes us. We can arrive at a great salary, a respected job title, a position of responsibility, and we start to wonder how we'll survive if we leave, despite feeling really unfulfilled. Self-belief is a game changer here, but the thing that's really going to kick you into action is when the fear of never trying or never changing becomes greater than the pain of staying where you are. 7, you can bring your dreams and goals to life slowly. Introduce tiny changes, start small, do what you can around the parts that are less than ideal. Life isn't black and white, so you can embrace the grey. Start a side hustle. Begin with low expectations and build slowly. 8, get intentional about the company you keep. Investing time in surrounding yourself with the right network of people will up-level your mindset as you start to see what's possible and then believe it could be possible for you too. That can be in real life, but it can also be online. There are some amazing communities out there. 9, in every negative situation, there is always an opportunity to grow. From postnatal depression, being made unemployed, becoming a parent, every experience is valid and will bring time to reflect and write down all your options. Look for the feeling of excitement and lean into that as much as you can. Use it as a guide. 10, you don't need to know how you're going to make these things happen. You just need a starting point and then be able to take the next right step. How do you know what the next right step is? It's the tiny thing that feels like a doable or exciting action that you can take that's in exactly the same direction as your big goal. Keep your end goal in mind. Life doesn't have to be where you are right now, and remember that everything is figure-outable. Well, I hope you loved today's episode and it made you think differently, or perhaps nudged you into changing something in your life that's not working for you. I'd love to give you a shout out right here on the podcast too, so let me know what you think, what you'd like to hear more of, or how you've been inspired to take bold action. Let's keep in touch over on Instagram @The Mischief Movement, or click the link in the show notes to sign up to my Mischief Mail newsletter, where you'll get exclusive insights on upcoming episodes and your chance to submit questions to future guests. But shh, don't tell anyone, it's our secret. Please keep spreading the word about the podcast. You're doing such an amazing job, and I'm also super grateful for your 5-star ratings on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, which seriously help my mission to inspire and empower more people like us to choose mischief over mediocre. Have a great week and keep making mischief. Ciao.